Okay, so we start the first lesson regarding macroeconomics, right? As you know, we are studying what was Keynes' thought, right? So, we are analyzing the big picture, meaning that we are looking firstly at the goods market, the real market, goods and services, right? And afterward, we will analyze the money market, the financial market. What we are dealing with in this part is gonna be the goods market. If you remember well, before looking into this, we studied the GDP, gross domestic product, PIL in Italian. In English is GDP, gross domestic product. And we said that GDP was equal to what? What was it? Who has the courage to try it in English? It's too soon. We said the GDP was the sum
Goods
goods and services produced in a country. Right? And this sum was equal to what? To
the reach of a nation.
exactly to the national income, right? So this is what we already know. We know that we have GDP, gross domestic product, is the sum of goods and services produced in a country, and this value is equal to national income, and we know why, because to do this value, to calculate this value with the price per quantity, we know that inside of the price there is all the remuneration of each factor, and that's the reason why this is equal to national income. Let's ask yourself a question. If in a country there are goods and services produced, why those goods and services will be produced? For what?
You repeat.
Why you produce something? What's the reason why I will produce skirts, shirts, ties. Why do I produce ties? I am a tie manufacturer.
For the style.
I produce them. I produce 1,000 ties per month. Huh? Yeah, and ask for them meaning what? Exactly, they want to buy them, correct? So if I manufacture ties, it's because I expect someone to buy ties, right? If Mercedes manufactures cars, they expect somebody buying cars. You agree with me?
Yeah.
Correct. So, if we have a certain amount of of goods and services that are produced, those goods will be bought. Correct? If those goods are produced, somebody will buy it. Right? So, we have something that is the sum of goods and services bought in a country. Correct? If there is goods and services produced, this will be equal of the sum of goods and services bought in a country. You agree with me?
Yes.
So we know that GDP is the sum of goods and services produced. It's equal to national income, but it's also equal to goods and services bought in a country. Okay? This has a name and is called aggregate demand. AD. AD is called the aggregate demand, which is the sum of goods and services bought in a country. Correct? Easy? So you already understand that aggregate demand is equal to national income. By its definition, because we know what is GDP, we know that is the goods and services produced, we know the reason why it's equal to national income, therefore we know that if goods are produced, they will be bought. The sum of goods and services bought is called the aggregate demand, and for sure aggregate demand will be equal to national income. Okay? So you already know the first equation of the goods market, that aggregate demand is equal to national income. Now, ask yourself a question. Who will buy goods and services?
Clients.
Okay, which means consumers, correct? Hmm? Okay, if you remember what you did when you were very small boys and girls. Your first year that start studying economy. Who is the people called consumers? Who consumes?
The customer.
Very good. Families, right? We are consumers. We are basics consumers. Then, other than families, who buys things? To satisfy needs. Yes. Good. But think.
Companies.
Companies. Great. Somebody else. More difficult. Who has bought this desk?
School.
Public administration, huh? Okay, so the state. So in a country, you have three main subjects who buys things. Families, companies, and the state. Right? Things bought by the state are called government, expenditure, okay? Letter G, government expenditure, which means all the money that the state spends, right? Public administration, the state has bought this desk. Huh? Is buying the new windows, right? Has bought this blackboard, correct? Spent money. Very clear? Right. Then we have family, consumers. So we have consumption. Consumption is all the goods bought by families. Yep. All the goods bought by families. When we think about goods bought by family, we said consumption. Of course, families also spend money for investment. Think about your family. Probably your family has bought a house. But maybe you buy a house in your life, 2 houses in your life, 3 houses in your life if you're very rich. But it's something you do seldomly, not very often. In your family, you buy a car, but you probably buy a car every 10 years. Correct? You don't buy cars every day. while every day you go to the supermarket buying food, quite frequently you buy clothes, right? Quite frequently you go to a restaurant or you go to have drink, right? So the majority of the expenditure of the family is consumption, even if there is a small part of investment, correct? It's very clear the difference between consumption and investment is basically the amount of money you spend for it. When we think about companies, it's clear that the majority of their investment, of their expenditure, is investments. Of course, company also do some consumption. They probably will buy paper for the printers. They probably buy pens. But the majority of the expenditure of the company are investments, right? They buy a lot of goods that they transform it. They buy new machinery. Quite frequently they do investments. That's the reason why we make this simplification, saying that the consumption is mainly families, investment is mainly companies. And then we have government expenditure. Government expenditure is everything. Also, government can do some expenditure as a consumption, some expenditure as an investment. Correct? Is very clear up to here. Okay? Perfect? Now, let's say something that we will immediately forget, but just to have these things completed. Let's think about clothes. If you buy a jumper from Armani, okay? It's Italian, it's an Italian company. Never mind where it's manufactured, right? But it's an Italian company, Armani, correct? Does Armani sells only in Italy?
No.
So there will be a part of goods produced in Italy that will be sold in Italy, but a part will be sold abroad, correct? So will not be here. Will not be there. So we have to take it away. What is export? If you buy a jumper of Ralph Lauren, is it an Italian company? No. Right. So it's imported, correct? So, if we live in an open market, in an open country, meaning a country that buys and sells goods also from abroad, we need to consider export and import, correct? So, to sum it up, we have said that aggregate demand is equal to consumption plus investment plus government expenditure, correct? This is what we call the domestic market. Then we have the external market. If we live in an open country, correct? But something you will be very happy of. We will not consider in our study now, you will probably do if you will do afterward at universities, but we will not consider the external market. So what we will study from now on the goods market is a closed economy, right? An economy that does not have any exchange with other countries. We will only consider domestic market. So it's important to know that aggregate demand is domestic market, but if we are in an open country, there is also export and import. So we need to consider also what is export minus import. But in the model we will study this year, we will only take care of a closed economy. So for us, aggregate demand, all the goods and services bought in a country, is composed by consumption done by families, investments done by company, and government expenditure done by the state and the public administration. There's nobody else that can buy goods or services in a country. You agree with me? You think about some other entities that can buy things. Great. Up to here is very, 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 very clear?
Yeah.
Yep.
Come on.
For everybody?
Can go ahead.
Service. Okay, so we can start with step 1. The first part of the aggregate demand, which is consumption. Consumption. Consumption, goods and services are mainly bought by families.
Goods and services.
Mainly bought by families.
Money.
From what does depends the amount of goods and services that consumers, families, consumers buys.
Salary.
Oh, very good. Income, huh? You agree with me? That's the main factor, huh? One of the main factor. And of course, the higher is the income, and I will consume more or less. The more I earn, the more I consume. You agree with me? There will be a direct connection. Think about other things. Price level. I put it in parentheses. Why? Because it's very true that consumption depends on prices. But if you remember well, that's what we did last year when we were studying microeconomies. We were studying a single good, right? It's true that the amount of jumpers depend on the price of jumpers. The amount of dinner at the restaurants I do depends on the price of a dinner or a restaurant, right? Because if tomorrow going out for dinner will cost 10 euro, we will probably get out more. But in here, we are thinking about all the goods consumed. So theoretically, we should look into the price level globally to inflation. If prices rise or increase. But since it's a sort of a picture, we can't really consider price as an element. It's clear? Think about other things. Why you bought those shoes and not others?
Because I like it.
Because you like it. Good. Personal tastes. You're sure there is no other reason?
Because the quality is.
This is snacking.
Yeah.
Status
Like.
Status symbol. But you are sure that half of you bought Nike, Adidas only for the taste,
For the quality.
for the qualities.
Because Nike
is famous.
Ah, and why is famous? Why is it famous? Why everybody knows that and nobody knows Pututu shoes?
For the promotion.
Ah, advertising.
Can wait a second, please.
that I'm
Sorry?
Wait a moment, please. Because retard.
Okay? Do you think that things that people like now with globalization more, but not always things that are bought or are famous in Italy or Italian people like are the same that people in Japan like, or people in Australia likes, or people in Portugal likes, right? So also the place where you are made a certain difference. So we can see that there are many factors from what consumption depends on. But what do those factors has in common and as different from income? Think about that. What do those factors have in common, but they are different from income? Income has a characteristic that those factors doesn't have. What is? Try it.
With the income, you will buy.
You're getting closed. Okay, well tried. But when you define your income, what do you say? My income is?
For price, for
If you work and your friend says, how much is your income?
In,
Huh?
in,
Your salary.
Yeah, but you have a value for it. You agree with it? You have a value. It is measurable. My income is 20,000 euro per year. Correct? My income is 2,000 euro per month. Okay? Income is measurable. Those are non-measurable factors. Correct? Those factors are not measurable. How can I give a value to personal taste? Okay? Advertising has a price, but doesn't have a value. Or at least not as clear as income. I mean, my income is my income. I know it has a very precise value. Correct? Now, think about this. Let's pick those two very nice ladies. She is earning 2,000 euro per month. And she is also earning 2,000 euro per month. Correct? They have the same income. you all agree that you are sure that if he earns 20,000 euro per month, he will consume more than them.
Yeah.
This is very clear. But they have exactly the same income. Do you think they will consume the same amount of money?
No.
No. Why?
Save more.
Because maybe one of them is more keen on saving money. Hmm? Because you have different needs. Hmm? But it's very interesting what your friends say. Say they are differently keen on saving money. What does it mean? It means that maybe she loves to buy stuff, right? 2,000 euro per month, and she is buying skirts, clothes, she's going out to restaurants every time, and at the end of the month, she's gonna have practically zero money. Hmm? While at this is CLIL.
Logica della conferenza in auditorium. Se avessi la quarta ora libera parla di questo.
Okay, but on the other hand, she is very keen on saving.
She doesn't know what is keen.
Keen on means you feel like you want to save.
How to write it? Letters. No, I'm scared to preguntare.
Keen on. Keen on means your feeling, your wish to. While our other friend, she wants to save. She is very attentive. She thinks about her future and want to save money one day to buy a house, having 4 kids. And she is never buying a pair of shoes. She is going out only for having a pizza once every 2 months, right? So, even if they have exactly the same income, there is something very different between them. And this something is called propension to consume. Propension to consume is the percentage of income used to consume. She will probably consume the 90% of her income, while she is only consuming the 50% of her income. Correct? Is very clear what is the propension to consume? Okay, now that is clear that each person have a different propension to consume, as we said at the beginning, we are not considering the single person as we did last year in microeconomy, but we are considering globally a country. And you can imagine that also country-wise, each country has different propension to consume. Correct? If you think about United States and Italy, you probably all know that in United States the propension to consume is higher than the one in Italy. Then of course there will be some American that is consuming very few and Italians that spend lots of money, but globally, as an average by country, each country has its own propension to consume. Is very clear what it is?
Yeah.
The symbol of propension to consume is a little c. And big C is consumption, little c is propension to consume. What will I do with my income if I'm not consuming it? You say that, correct? So I only have two options with my income. Or I consume it, or I save it. You agree with me? We are not considering the option I throw it in the bin. Meaning that if she consumes the 90% of her income, how much will she save?
10%.
Correct? If she is consuming 60% of her income, how much will she save?
40%.
Okay, fantastic. So, the income, or I consume or I save. So I have a propension to consume and I have a propension to save. Which is the little s. Propension to save will be the percentage of income saved. I think that you all guess that the propension to consume plus propension to save will be equal to if she is consuming, her propension to consume is 90%. The propension to consume is, to save is 10. If her propension is 60, the propension to save is, okay, the sum is
The total
100%. So is 1. 100% is 1 in number. Because if the propension here is 90%, this is 0.9. The propension to save is 10%, and this is 0.1. Okay? So, the propension to consume plus propension to save is not equal to the income, is equal to 1. Because they are complementary, right? Very, very clear up to here?
Yeah.
And I think for today we finish here.
Okay.